The chair now recognizes the gentlelady from Iowa, Mrs. Hinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Madam Secretary. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate your commitment to getting Homeland Security back to mission. You know, we saw such a straying from that in the previous administration, and President Trump's border security promises were really delivered on day one and continue to be executed on. So I just want to say thank you for that. Under your leadership, those illegal encounters at our southern border are dropping to historic lows. Our immigration laws are finally being enforced. The border wall is back under construction. DHS is finally working again on protecting the homeland. No new laws, but we have a new president and a new secretary, so I want to say thank you. Last year, before this committee, Secretary Mayorkas at the time came before us pushing the Biden administration's $4.7 billion Southwest Border Contingency Fund. All that really was a slush fund, we know, designed to bypass Congress and bankroll those failed policies and sanctuary cities doing their bidding. He claimed it was to manage surges, but those surges were of their own doing, sending a clear signal to illegal immigrants, the traffickers, the cartels, that our border was open for business for them. That wasn't enforcement, that was actual chaos at our southern border by the taxpayers' dime. So I see that as just one of the many blatant attempts for Secretary Mayorkas at the time and President Biden to misuse those taxpayer dollars intentionally without accountability. But again, under President Trump and your leadership, we have reversed course there. Programs like the Shelter and Services Program that enabled that abuse have been gutted, and their funding is now going to real border enforcement. So I'd like to drill down a little bit, Madam Secretary, on the misuse of those dollars under the last administration. Can you walk us through some of the specific programs or activities under the Biden administration that enabled this crisis and how you've worked to unwind those programs?
Well, it was the Shelter and Services Program, which you referenced specifically. Those dollars were taken and manipulated to facilitate illegal activity and housing for illegal aliens and criminals that were in this country, and gave them a place to set up shop and to conduct their trafficking, their drug dealing, and also their crimes against their communities that they live in. A prime example is the Roosevelt Hotel in New York City. Filled with hundreds and hundreds of illegal aliens, many of them criminals, part of foreign terrorist organizations such as TDA, and in fact, Laken Riley's killer stayed there, and paid for by the American taxpayer, courtesy of Joe Biden and those who supported him and his leadership in this country. That's what we're working to address, is to make sure that those dollars are no longer continue to be used in such a manner, and that programs like that have been misused are used for ways that secure this country and really follow through on what the mission of the Department of Homeland Security is. And that's to keep the American homeland safe and secure and to protect our communities. We have many of the grants and different dollars that we have out there being reevaluated. We're also utilizing several different programs and working with other different cabinet secretaries to make sure that our housing programs, our food assistance programs, our shelter services programs, even programs within other agencies, that if people are illegals and that it wasn't the authority of Congress and never the determining decision by Congress to make them be people who took advantage of those programs or to have access to them, that was ended. That no longer was this president going to allow money to be diverted different than what was authorized to be utilized to facilitate people who are in this country illegally and breaking our laws.
And you mentioned the number on the terror watch list already held accountable, 250, and we know there are more, and I think that Americans need to understand you are doing that work to help keep us safe, apprehend these dangerous people that were just let to roam free in our country. I certainly, as a Midwest mom, like you, understand that we need to prioritize that and make sure you have the resources necessary for detention beds as well as the enforcement side. So as we work through fiscal year 26, the considerations that we need to be taking a look at and reconciliation as well, what additional authorities or potential congressional actions do you see as necessary to making sure you can execute on your mission?
I would say the Department of Homeland Security is one of the largest agencies in the federal government, but has one of the smallest budgets. And it really is about when you look at what you're doing for fiscal year 26, and when you're looking at the reconciliation package, is to really determine where your priorities are, where Congress's priorities are. What is the responsibility of the federal government? What did our founders task us with as far as ensuring for the American people, and what rights did he remain with the people and with the state? And every decision that gets made here should be facilitated through that lens to make sure we're spending money appropriately. I always say, and have said for many, many years, no matter what topic comes up, what program, what agency, there's always going to be lobbyists who show up. There's very few people who show up in the room to lobby for the American taxpayer. And the job that you do in oversight is incredibly important. And I come to this role today not only as a wife and a mom and a grandma, but also as a business owner, someone who's been an employee for many different people, served in Congress, served in our legislature, but also as governor. And people need leadership that recognizes what the priorities are. And so every different component that I have under my responsibility, we are putting back on mission and making sure that they are fulfilling the duties to which they were created. So thank you for considering the reconciliation package. It will be considering the amount of people that are in this country illegally, many of them perpetuating crimes. We need the resources to continue doing what President Trump has promised the American people, to get these individuals out of our country and make sure that they come into our country, if they self-deport when they come back, that they do so the right way, and that they can be a part of the American dream in the future.
Thank you again to you and President Trump for redirecting those resources where they are intended to go. Really appreciate that. And Mr. Chairman, I yield back.